everyone, welcome to our channel, Rebecca's Doing the Crew. I'm Rebecca, and today I'm going to show you guys how to make some gifts using vinyl, but you do not need a cutting machine. We're going to make this Gnome t-shirt and a coffee mug. So let's go over the supplies you'll need to create these projects. We're going to use just a Dollar Tree t-shirt. We're going to need an iron with a cotton setting. We'll also use some of the everyday iron-on vinyl. Any color will do, and then we're going to also use the permanent adhesive vinyl. We're going to need some parchment paper, just some regular drawing paper or computer paper, a picture of a gnome that you could use as a stencil. I'll also use one of these Dollar Tree ornaments as a stencil, and some Dollar Tree coffee mugs. We'll need some scissors, an X-Acto knife, and some clear contact paper. So let's get crafty. The very first thing we're going to do is the coffee mug, and we're going to use the permanent vinyl for this. So just taking that wooden ornament from the Dollar Tree, I just lay this on the corner of the vinyl right on top, and we're just going to trace it with a pen. You can use a pencil, marker, it doesn't really matter. And as long as you know it's something that you're not going to see, but for the most part, we're just going to cut it out, so you probably won't see it anyways. So after that, we're just going to take an X-Acto knife and start cutting out the pieces of the snowflake here. Now, it's really easy to cut through because this snowflake I chose doesn't have a lot of pattern to it, which made it a little bit easier. So keep in mind, if you're doing this without a cutting machine, you're going to want to do something that doesn't have a whole lot of detail in it, but you can add detail as you go. So as you notice, as I go around the snowflake here, I do the diamond shapes around here, but it looked a little bit plain. So once I cut out around the whole entire snowflake, I added a few more diamond shapes to the outer parts of the snowflake and a little crisscross in the center of the snowflake, which you'll see here in just a second. You can even use different things like a hole punch. That would work to make little holes on the snowflake or different patterns. There's lots of options. You just kind of have to be creative, and really any clip art off the internet that you can trace onto some vinyl that doesn't have too much detail would work perfectly for this project. As you can see right now, I'm just cutting out some little diamond shapes at the top of the snowflake, and I did that all the way around. And then, like I said, I did the little X pattern right in the center of the snowflake, and really they're just straight lines that weren't too wide, and I just made this little X pattern. Once that's done, you're just going to weed off the excess vinyl around the outside of the snowflake. It's pretty easy to do for the permanent vinyl. You just want to pull up the corner and then slowly work your way around the pattern that you created here. And this is your excess vinyl you're just going to throw away. So you do want to cut your paper down to size and try to get it your pattern over in a corner or on the edge, because vinyl can be expensive, and to help save you money, you want to make sure that you're using as little that you're going to have to throw away as possible. So once that's done, we're going to take our clear contact paper. I just picked this up at the Dollar Tree, and what we're going to do is we're going to make the transfer. So we're just going to stick this right over top of the snowflake, and then you can rub it with a popsicle stick, pretty much anything here. I'm just using the end of the scissors, and then we'll flip it over, and we'll very carefully pull off the backing to the snowflake. And now our snowflake is stuck to the contact paper, so we can transfer this a lot easier onto the coffee mug. So now to put this on the coffee mug, since I just used a snowflake, I'm not really worried too much about the position or having to line it up, which makes snowflakes really nice, especially this time of year for gift giving and things. And you're just going to lay that on the coffee mug. Again, you're going to burnish it just by rubbing across the top of it, and then peel off the contact paper. And here is our design on the coffee mug. It's super easy to do. I think this took me all of maybe 10 minutes total from start to finish. So I thought this was a really easy project to share with you guys, to show you don't need a Cricut to do these coffee mugs if you use a pretty simple design. So now we're going to move to the iron-on vinyl and create one of these Gnome t-shirts. So I'm just going to use this Dollar Tree sign and some computer paper. All I'm going to do is create a stencil. So I just lay this on top of the sign, and it's raised up. So I just rub my fingers around the outer edge to get a crease in the paper so I can see the outline of the gnome. As you can see here, you can see the outline of the gnome. So then I'm going to go ahead and just trace this with my pencil and get the whole entire design on paper. And of course, it doesn't have to be exactly like the gnome on the sign. That was just as an example. Like for myself here, I wanted to add some little arms and mittens on the side, which you can do. You don't have to do. And again, if you don't have one of these little signs on at home that you can use for a stencil, you could just get a coloring book page right off the internet, just print it out and use that as your stencil. So then I went over it with the black Sharpie marker to help you guys see it a little bit better. And then to help figure out what color I want the different pieces of my project to be, I just used colored markers so I know which pieces of what color I'm going to have to cut out. So now we're going to break apart the pattern into pieces based on what color vinyl we're going to use. So the first thing I did is I traced the hat and the body. And as you can see right here, part of this body at the top, of course, that's going to be underneath of our beard. The reason you want to make your pattern a little bit bigger is because we're going to layer this. And when we layer it, we want to make sure that we don't have gaps between it because we're not using a cutting machine. So the same thing here with the beard. I go a little bit higher than I needed to with the beard to make sure that that's going to lay under the nose and you're not going to see the t-shirt underneath. So we're just going to do this for all of the pieces of the patterns. This is the ruffle around the hat here. I chose to do that red as well as the mittens. And then the feet will be black and the nose will be gold, just because that's the color of vinyl that I had. And as you can see, I made the shoes a little bit bigger as well because they will be a bottom layer. So that's important to pay attention as well as what will be the bottom layers and which ones will be the top layers. So we're just going to cut these out with some scissors, and then we're going to transfer this pattern onto the vinyl. Now that we have everything cut out, we're going to trace the pieces onto the vinyl and then cut those out. Now the heat transfer vinyl, there's two sides, the shiny side and then the matte side. You're going to do this on the matte side, and then you're going to take your pattern piece and make sure that you flip it over so that it's upside down. Because when we iron this on, it will be the opposite direction. So all we're going to do is trace it with either a Sharpie or a pencil. I prefer a pencil just because the heat can make the marker bleed if you don't get all of the lines off when you cut out your shapes. So I'm just cutting out the nose here. You do want to take your time. You could use the razor blade or scissors. I found scissors a little bit easier for the larger pieces. And then I did the beard. For the beard, I decided to cut a few little pieces out on the beard to make it look like a little bit more of a 3D with the hairs of the beard. So I just basically drew on the letter W, and then I just cut it out with the X-Acto knife, and then you pull those little pieces out. And that's what it looks like from the front. Now I did the same thing for the hat. I wanted it to look like it had a little bit more 3D detail, so I cut some little pieces off of the sides to look like wrinkles. So now we're going to lay the matte side down, shiny side up. You're going to put your parchment paper on top of your vinyl, and you're going to press down really hard, put it on your highest heat setting, and you're going to hold that for about a minute. Then remove your parchment paper. And what you're going to do is just kind of lift up the corner, and then you're peeling off that top layer, and your vinyl should be left behind. Now, if you feel like your vinyl is lifting up, just put that plastic back down, put the parchment paper back on top, and just put your iron back over it and heat it up longer. It just wasn't done long enough. Then I always like to go over my vinyl a second time, and I just put the parchment paper back down once the plastic's off and go back over the vinyl to make sure all the edges are stuck down really well. So now, because we're not using a Cricut machine or a cutting machine, we have to think about the layers. So we're going to do the pom-pom to the hat next, because that's going to be the top layer. We're going to do the exact same thing. You want to use your parchment paper, iron for 1 minute, and then pull off the plastic. And now we're going to find the placement for the boots. That will be the next layer. So I did my beard and the body, and this just holding it on in place with my hand so I can slide the boots into place so I know where they're going to go next. And as you can see, this is why we cut the boots a little bit higher, so they'll hide up underneath of the body. If they move a little bit, it's okay. You can just adjust those. And now again, use your parchment paper and your iron for 1 minute and pull off the plastic. Now that the feet are done, the next part is going to be the body. Now we'll do the mittens. And then we did the beard and the cuffs to the mittens last for the part of the body. And now we'll do the brim of the hat next. And then, of course, the last piece is the nose that we put on top. So it's very important that you pay attention to the layers. And this is the whole entire shirt done. There was no cutting machine. Using the heat transfer vinyl, you can get a Hobby Lobby. I hope you guys enjoyed learning how to make this with no machine. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and share. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.